Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We have a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, but if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, please just flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, we usually have a bunch of SEOs here live on the call, not just the four of us. So please feel free to share your perspectives. I think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours. It's not just the four of us sharing, but everybody else. So thank you so much for doing that in advance. And like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mike, and hello everyone for joining us today. Yes, I'm back in the co-host seat today. Thank you, Natalia, for being our special co-host last week. And welcome everyone for joining us live. Yeah, I'm really excited today. We have today at our 32nd SEO Office Hour, so more than half a year, we have Lee and Lydia joining us. And as Mike said, I'm running my own consultancy business called Turnbull. And we have a base in Brisbane and we have a base in Barcelona, and we provide SEO consultancy help and marketing advice. And also I run two events, Search Barcelona and Search London. And some of you in the audience have come to both. So welcome Lee and welcome Lydia for joining us today. Lee is a very busy guy. He oversees all delivery services at Vertical Leap. He helps to drive the search marketing success for the businesses of all sizes. He's also a published author. He's actually done 3 books all about search marketing, and he also regularly contributes to these top industry publications like, State of Digital, Search Engine Journal, The Drum. So a very busy guy indeed. Hello, Lee. Welcome to SEO Office Hours.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I take any opportunity to chat SEO with like-minded people, and it's such a cool space to be. So yeah, very happy to be here this morning.
Well, thank you. And please connect with Lee on LinkedIn. I've just shared his details. And I'm really, really pleased to have Lydia here with us today. Lydia is the head of SEO at SurveyMonkey with over a decade of expertise in SEO and content strategy. She has spoken at many events such as MozCon, WTS Fest, Brighton SEO. She also writes for numerous publications like Moz, Search Engine Journal, and the Wix SEO Hub. She has numerous years experience. She's worked in the UK and also in Spain and Barcelona. And I'm really pleased to have her here today. And some nice facts about Lydia. She's actually got, I think you were saying, Lydia, you've got your cat Gatula. It's called Gatula. And it likes to hang out, and even when she's working, just likes to jump all over her desk. So.
Yeah, so you might see her butt today.
So we will see her. Oh, maybe. Okay, good. Well, please connect with Lydia here. We've got her LinkedIn details there. And I think we've got actually quite a few people joining us live. Thank you all for adding to the chat. Remember, if you do have any questions as well today, please do write them. And we have, as Mike says, many minds thinking about a problem helps to resolve them. So I'll pass over to you, Mike, so we can kick off with loads of questions today.
Great. Yeah, we have. If I'm looking a bit grey today, I did that thing where you stay up all night just keeping an eye on the TV and not had much sleep. So did anybody else do that, or just me? Yeah, Simon, you did it as well. Okay, so the first question we're not actually going to answer now, because I thought this could be quite a fun one for everybody to contribute to, and then we could summarize at the end. Somebody has basically asked if we can have a segment that focuses on emerging SEO trends, best practices for 2024. So if there's anything you're working on at the moment, or any tools that you're using or anything like that you really like, feel free to share, and then we'll come back to this when we're talking about what we're most excited about. So first, other question, Plausible, which is an analytics platform. So Plausible indicates that several of our important pages have elevated exit rates. What strategies might you suggest to reduce these exit rates? So I guess you have this also in other analytics platforms, but anybody got any ideas? Who would like to kick off?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Go for it.
So I think when you're looking at things that are unique to your website, a lot of the information obviously sits within your own data sets, right? So these people have seen an advert that resonates with them, they've clicked on something, you know, whatever channel, they've landed on your website, and whatever reason they're now exiting at certain pages. I think it's important to understand the purpose of the page. Some pages are meant to be exited on. So if it's a contact us page, for example, that's perfectly normal. I mean, that's part of the process. When it's elevated, so that kind of suggests it's higher than typical exit rates based on similar like-for-like pages, I would assume, because some content types like blogs might have a higher exit rate, for example, unless you're very good at kind of capturing people's engagement and sort of putting together sort of hubs or of content to sort of enable people to easily navigate through to other pages and things like that. And also, yeah, I think I'd look at the data. So what's happening on these pages? Are they performing slower? Are core web vitals poor? Are they not? Is content not being delivered properly on mobile devices, for example? Is it not rendering as you'd expect? Are there technical barriers? I mean, there's a huge amount there which can impact people's experience on your site and lead them to exit. So first of all, I'd just really get under the bonnet of your own data, really, and sort of see what those pages are telling you and how they compare or differ to other like-for-like types of content on your website too.
I think that's a very good question. And I really love what you said, Lee, about checking if this page actually is meant to be exited really fast, because many are, like a high bounce rate is not necessarily a bad thing. I would do a few little things, like, for example, checking load time, like you mentioned. I would try to use heat maps and recordings just to figure out if maybe you haven't tested for something that's creating a lot of frustration for your users, right? I remember when Hotjar introduced rage clicks, that was super helpful. So I would do that. And if that doesn't seem to be an issue, understand if the content's not satisfying user intent. So you could try to ask some users for feedback, set up a small panel of people to ask some questions about your site. Alternatively, you can just go ahead and offer some clear next steps, right? Like, do you even know what you want your users to do on that page, rather than just exit your site at all? And if you do, signpost them in that direction. You could also offer an opportunity for a micro conversion, right? Please don't offer a pop-up saying like discounts, because that just drives me insane. So personally, as a favor to me, don't do that. But there might be an opportunity to say, hey, like, follow our podcast or join this webinar, or I hope you enjoy the content of the page. Sign up to our newsletter for more.
Great. What about you, Joe? Have you got any additional thoughts?
I think we've had some great points so far. The only thing I wanted to say was what Lee touched upon about like the blog. So a lot of people do like related articles, related posts underneath that. That's always very good. But as what Lydia said about getting feedback, I would say this is very important. You could ask two different groups. So people very casually, like your friends and family who are not into websites. Oh, what do you think of the website? Don't ask them too many questions because you'll get the answers you want, or you'll have biased answers. And then the other one, you could actually have some focus groups actually to go through your website. But yeah, without a bit more of context of those pages, it's a bit more difficult of what answers to provide. We just had, so a little bit of interaction, some jokes in the chat, Simon, as always. And John is saying, add fly traps to the pages so you kind of like catch them.
Great. Yeah, I agree totally with everything everyone said. I think the only other thing is you could do some A/B testing if it doesn't make sense that people leave. But like Lee was saying, at some point people have to leave the website, so it makes sense that you will have exit rates on some pages. Just hopefully they're the pages that should be the case. When I've had this issue before, the question, if doing what Lydia said, where maybe ask for some feedback, I'll use something like Hotjar. They have pop-ups there that you could basically, a question that works quite well is, what questions did you have that you couldn't find the answers to on this page? Just to get some, real-time feedback from users. I found that can be quite useful. Great. Okay, next question. I'll take a few. Right, next one. So what are the possible side effects of not indexing specific pages or URLs on a website, and how can it affect your overall SEO performance? Who would like to kick off on this one?
I can get it.
Go for it.
One of the issues that you're going to encounter is these pages are not going to rank. That's probably why you have them not indexed. Another thing that you're going to find is that the links that you are pointing out from those pages, like internal links to other of your key pages that you have been using as levers to signal that this page is important to search engines, are likely going to be ignored over time, especially if your page needs to be onto a JavaScript rendering queue. Because especially Google, if they see a no index on the header, they go like, okay, let's save a little bit of resources, maybe not burn the planet yet, and not putting through the rendering queue. So that's like the two most obvious effects of it, I would say.
I think that makes perfect sense, right? But I also think, there's logical reasons why you don't want to index some pages, right? So the impact can be a positive one and a negative one, right? So if on a positive front, maybe you've got a huge amount, a massive website that's got huge amounts of kind of dying or dead content that's just been added to over many, many years, that's kind of orphaned off, it's still sitting around, it's still, impacting the crawlability of the site, it's still kind of there, but often it's not really there in a purposeful way or a planned way. And so I think when you look at things like not indexing certain pages, you've got a proactive opportunity that you should be looking at probably every few months to say, how can we kind of either kill or combine or keep some of this content, or just make it more kind of up to date and relevant and sort of impactful and useful for your audience, right? So it's if you've got a million page website, it's like, how much of that do you want to be indexed? Like, how much of that is useful to be indexed? How much of it can be sort of reinvested in, regenerated, and sort of brought back to life? And also kind of how intuitive and logical and able kind of Google to crawl and access that content too, right? So it's sort of like, for me, it's like indexation, that there's two elements of it. One is a really proactive, positive side of, we want this core content to be indexed, discovered all of the time, and kind of repeat visited by all the major search engines as often as possible, because it's constantly changing and evolving and improving. And then the other element of it is that we've got this massive kind of wave of content. How do we kind of logically prune this in the right way so that we don't lose things like not just traffic or rankings, but also things like backlinks? I mean, sometimes there's real hidden gems within a website, especially the larger sites, that might have acquired huge amounts of useful backlinks or still actively being kind of seen and engaged with socially. And so some auditing of what you might want to prune needs to supersede just the obvious metrics like impressions, clicks, rankings, and all that sort of stuff, and look at some more of the sort of external kind of factors, like whether people are engaging with that content or still looking for it.
Yeah, I think a very common space where people know index pages, I think it's more common on like pagination, which is not a good idea to no index your pages, or when you have duplicate pages. And so like pages where you have a small variation of one on the other, right? I do not recommend no indexing those. You've got like the canonical option, which is much better. Canonical though is not a directive, so you might find that search engines still choose the page that you don't want them to choose. In that case, maybe consider why that's happening. If you can't fix it, a no index would be suitable. But when I was reading the question, I was wondering, the person who's bringing this up is talking about no indexing rather than blocking it on robots.txt. So it makes me think that they're not thinking about controlling the crawl budget.
Right, Joe, do you have any amazing answers, by the way? Joe, do you have any additional points or anything in the chat?
There was just very thorough answer, so nothing per se, just actually related to the last point Lydia made about the robots.txt file, because you'll want to have some pages that are blocked. For example, obviously admin, or if it's a staging site, you'd want to do that as well. Yeah, we've got a couple of things in the chat as well, so let me just go through that. Barry is saying that all pages on your site aren't meant to be indexed. After all, review your reasons for wanting to remove them from the index. So, why are you wanting to do this? Also, great pages for wanting to have them crawled and indexed. Manura is talking about not indexing specific pages or URLs on website can diminish SEO performance significantly. So this is obviously if they're very important pages, of course. Yeah, Waleed was asking, why are these specific pages and why someone wouldn't like to index these pages if they're relevant? Yeah, so you need to come back. We don't have the context for it. So, Lydia suggested some reason as to why people would no index, but also be aware that there is the robots.txt file as well for making sure that you do block certain pages from your site. Oh, Isaac was also saying that sometimes a company may non-index pages because they want to use it for PPC purposes. That's correct, actually. Yeah, so you might have a PPC landing page and you may just want to have it specifically for that campaign. And as much as maybe some SEOs might want to have that landing page later, it is a lot of different, sometimes that content is different and just solely only for PPC. So no, were you going to say about the robots.txt file that John shared?
Oh no, that's very funny though. Like everybody click on that. But I was thinking about the phrasing of the question, right? Like there's an amount of ambiguity in there. And I was wondering what situation would I find myself where I'd be sending out a question like this. When I receive an SEO question, I like to think about why this question was asked. And to me, it's giving me the impression that there is maybe an argument or like a discussion in the company where this person works or around the site where this person works, where a department wants to no index a page and the wants to index it, right? And like maybe they're gathering arguments for the indexing. So if that's what's up, bring up the idea of canonicalization. Because if you think some pages should be indexed and other people within your team think they shouldn't be, you might want to canonicalize instead.
I think that's really interesting. I think sometimes it's really, really easy to do a massive export of a website and just look at metrics like traffic and say, if it's not contributing, let's just kind of remove all of the noise and we can focus on the pages that are working for us. But there's a real risk to that too, right? Sort of like often there's a reason why they aren't performing yet. And actually you can just look at how they can perform. So when someone's talking about not indexing stuff, sometimes it's just a case of, we've got all of this body of work to do. We're not potentially that keen on kind of investing into that work. So the quick fix is let's just get rid of it, right? Let's remove it from the index. We know it's not working, so let's focus on other stuff. But actually, like how much value is hidden in that, right? So I think you're right, Lydia, that there may be a bigger justification, conversation happening. And often that type of, not friction, but sometimes there's just a kind of a cross-education piece there where teams just need to understand that different specialist areas can kind of come at the same sort of problem with a different angle or a different perspective. And it's just trying to make sure that it's not overlooked just by doing an export and excluding stuff because of a specific metric or a couple of metrics.
Amazing. Oh, sorry, Lydia, did you want to say anything else?
Frankly, I could talk about it forever, so maybe it's time I shut up. But I like on Lee's point, I'm very wary of pruning exercises because they can prune out content that is maybe being used on email campaigns or linked to from important pages, and something that looks like it's not performing. Performing can mean many, many very different things for each page. So I'm generally wary of it, and I do think it's a quick solution sometimes. I do find this question super interesting though, because of the situation that this SEO might be finding themselves in.
Yeah, if you happen to be on the call, because we don't actually have context on this one, but if you happen to be on the call, feel free to give us some context and we can come back to it in the chat. I've been in a couple of situations actually where clients have wanted to delete pages because they don't have very much traffic and little impressions. And I think that's quite common, but I know deleting is different to no indexing. But I think it really depends on that actual page itself and what it's doing. And actually, sometimes low traffic figures don't mean that it's not performing. It might just be that it's a really specific question for a small number of people, but it's still super helpful and might save your sales team time, or might be used as part of like your terms and conditions, for example. People aren't going to check that out all the time, but when they need to, it's important that it's there. Awesome. Should we go to the next question?
Yes, we've got loads of
Right.
questions. But...
So just a reminder about our question that I asked at the very beginning, which I've lost right now, but it was basically around what SEO trends, tools, and so on are you excited about at the moment, which we'll come to at the end. But just a reminder to others on the call that would be great to include you. Maybe just put a star or something before your answer so that we know that that's what you're referring to.
I've just shared it now in the chat.
Oh, super. Thanks, John. Next question. How do you balance the need for speed optimization with maintaining high quality user experience and rich media content? Lydia, you're smiling.
I know, I love this question so much. Oh my God, we're gonna be here all day. Okay, I know we can't be here all day, so I'll try to be brief. This question is very interesting. on one hand, we have a narrative that says that users expect more and more and more and richer experiences and blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, we've got a narrative that goes, oh, some newer generations are going back into like retro style websites or enjoying simpler, plainer sites. We also have, like, of course, the concern about the climate and all of the carbon footprint of all of those sites. So it's quite an interesting thing to balance out. I would contest that maybe users don't want all of that multimedia situation and just ask your users what they want. But the balancing likely comes from a top-down directive of we need more videos or we need more interesting clickable components on the website, right? So I would always validate that with user research and customer research. There isn't one plain answer for it. It's just validate that applies to your business. Don't just get a prettier site for the sake of it, because maybe your users love the old one. I've been in 100 A/B tests where a very old looking, horrible, awful module wins against the more modern looking one every single time.
So I think there's lots of really cool points in there, right? And I think SEO industry is pretty unique. I think if Google or any key influencers say something, everybody then applies it to every situation, every scenario, every page, every type of content, and it's like, come on, let's take a step back. Just because someone said that rich media can enhance user experience, it can impart first person knowledge, it can help with ranking in different search verticals. Of course it does, but it can also just clutter pages and slow them down and make them unwieldy and put people off. I mean, it's like every single page on a website doesn't need an infographic, a PDF download, a video at the top of the screen, 14 different images, 5 different tables. It's like, come on, let's just take a step back and think about whether we're enriching the user experience, whether we're bringing something useful and valuable to the web page, and whether the user intent is useful to provide a video and an image and an infographic and all these interactive infographic and all these other things, right? Because sometimes people just want to get to their endpoint as fast as they can with a simple definition, a little bit of trust, a bit of understanding that you know what you're talking about, and some related content that they can access easily and intuitively if they want to too, right? So it's like, yeah, video is great, right? Like if it distills a complex topic in 15 seconds, brilliant. I mean, why not? But does that, but if it just creates noise and it kind of prevents people getting to their endpoint, it's like, it's just getting the balance, isn't it? And of course you can optimize, you can make sure that, images are compressed, make sure images are short, videos are shorter, and all of this other best practice stuff. But ultimately, if it's not adding or enriching the experience, or it's not purposeful or useful, kind of don't use it, right? I mean, that seems to be like a useful human way to think about it.
And like another cool thing is like it's 2024. How are developers going to be implementing all of those rich modules? JavaScript, right? So you're going to have to either have server-side rendering or client-side rendering. Both not ideal. Client-side rendering can block a lot of like search engines from seeing the content of the page, and server-side rendering can slow down the page. So what are we gonna do, right? Ideally, we would create animations with CSS. That's not gonna happen because it takes a lot more time than doing it with JavaScript.
Yeah, we have some very excellent points here today. I think really, we don't have the full context of this, but I think what Preeti mentioned here might be something that this person might be going through. So she mentioned that her marketing department told her to add 25 different interactive things and 50 pop-ups. So I think really, I would say take it back to the brief and find out what is the point of the website, what is your target audience. If you have so many opinions, it's back to the data. Use a tool like Hotjar to collect information where people are going on the site. You can also do a survey as well. There's some great surveys out there. Or also you can do feedback groups as well. And a few other points from everyone in the chat. Simon saying, think about your brand. Are you giving away what they need simply and effortlessly? Or are you just throwing all these pop-ups, at them and cold selling rubbish? People they do not want cheap rubbish. Good point, Simon. And Preeti saying that she's loving very basic HTML sites and trying to make her personal site similar. So I don't know, vintage is in for a lot of things, you know, like wearing like the 1980s trainers and like the shell suit, maybe jacket in some parts of the world. Maybe we can have back to the vintage HTML pages, you know, who knows? But yeah, I think that sounds like this person has a lot of stakeholders. So I would suggest take it back to the brief and get an agreement on what are the objectives of that site or those pages.
Great answers. I've definitely been in the situation where I'm thinking about a client in particular that wanted, bearing in mind they've got thousands of products, they wanted videos for all of their products, and they wanted guides for all of their products and all of these things, and it just didn't make any sense at all. It was a really simple, basic product to understand. But then the other day I was trying to buy a trailer for my dog, and every website product page I looked at didn't have any videos, and I kind of thought it just makes sense that you would have videos to show me that it's safe and that my dog's going to be okay, and you know it's going to fit him and all that kind of stuff. So my point I'm trying to make is a bit like Lee was saying, that I think it just needs to make sense. If you need a video, if you need images, if you need a map, if you need something to kind of explain deeper to people. Great, super, amazing answers, by the way, everybody. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm barely saying anything this week. It's great. That's nothing against previous weeks, by the way, just on top of that. Right, okay, should we jump?
Before we go, yeah, let's go to the next one. But just before we do, I just want to say thanks everyone for joining.
Amazing. Oh, I think this question's quite sweet. It's like the person's asking for permission. Am I allowed to use text from ChatGPT for product descriptions on our website?
I think you might know a lot about that, Mike.
Whoa, Joe, what are you saying? No, that's true. I said to Joe actually this week that I was showing a team how to use Gemini and ChatGPT to basically feed it information. They're a travel company. And basically, I know John's just put somebody's blushing. But I think it's totally fine, providing you're seeding it with lots of information. So basically this product team, the product descriptions that they have are a paragraph, no more than that. And they go and experience all these travel destinations. And I was just saying to them that it just feels like you either don't have descriptions or they're very generic. So I showed them how to use Gemini and ChatGPT, and I like to use both of them. And I just sort of said, get your sales team who have just experienced the place to give us a ton of information about it, and let's put it into there, and you can put into the settings things like your brand guidelines and all that kind of stuff, and then use that as a starting point. So Joe, sort of trying to catch me out. Nothing on the Good Signals website, nothing there. Okay, who would like to have a go at this one? So are they allowed? I think yes, providing that you are seeding with lots of information and using it as a starting point.
Yeah, well, it can be a full, like more than a starting point, right? Like content doesn't need to be human generated. It just needs to meet user needs, be original, be high quality. You can't do that with AI, contrary to like what many people like to say, but it is very much doable. I would say what I really like to do on situations where I need to scale a prompt, right, is create a custom little GPT for my team to use. And that's really, really fun. What I was thinking about this is like it took me back to talk I saw at Brighton SEO a bunch of years ago. I think it was 2019, about a specific, it was on e-commerce. It was like an affiliate aggregator that had like an e-commerce like experience on their side with categories, with products. But then when it came to buying, you would be redirected. And I thought their talk was they were super innovative at the time. What they were doing is structuring, like they had a bit of a template for the product description. So what they were selling was skincare. And they'd have like, what do users care about when it comes to skincare? Benefits, ingredients, brand, sometimes, right? So they would create models that randomly map groups of 5 types of qualities of the specific product. And then with content that they had already generated, they would insert the specific qualities of the product into the template, creating very original and differentiated product descriptions. And when we saw that at the time, it was like, wow, yeah, absolutely, everybody do it, take it on. And later on, like right now, AI content is seen more skeptically. It is clear to me that the work that these people did, and I wish I remember who they were, was thorough, thoughtful, and had the user needs in mind. I think one of the reasons that we don't feel the same about AI generated content today is one trend. We are a little bit like reactive to the big change that has been like thrown at us from OpenAI. And also the fact that AI is a lot more accessible today. The lack of friction to entry and not needing investment has generated a bit of a lazy culture of basically an influx of trash content onto the web, which makes us a little bit skeptical to it.
So I think, is someone allowed to do something? Of course they are. I mean, they can do whatever they want, right? I think if you take a step back from it, it's kind of like, is having something better than nothing? Is like when you're talking product descriptions, it's probably a case of, I've got thousands of product descriptions. They're all blank at the moment. Should I use AI just to quickly create something that I can stick up, right? Is that really useful and valuable? And is that going to differentiate you from everybody else that's doing the same sort of thing in a kind of a low quality, fast way? And it's like, surely, from my point of view, something isn't really better than nothing. What I would rather do is take a step back, prioritize the descriptions that are going to have the largest commercial impact on the business, focus on those. And of course, AI is part of the process, right? So if you have a decent prompt, the output is probably going to be fairly good, but there is also an element of risk if you're using AI without having an editorial and proofing process and just making sure that it's correct, right? Because surely it's more potentially risky to have something that's automatically generated and uploaded, even for small snippets of text like descriptions and things like that, rather than having nothing there. Because even if there's nothing there, there's probably other surrounding signals that are likely better and less damaging than having anything that's incorrect there. And so, yeah, I think certainly AI speeds up the process. So you can have great kind of semi-complete outputs, which are 70% there, but they still need that human element to say, is it on message? Is it differentiated? Is it useful? Is it gonna sing compared to other people's competing descriptions? If someone's looking for a product, they've probably gone on 3 different websites already, including Amazon. If you're all using the same AI descriptions, like why are they going to buy from you rather than just bounce to the next product description they've got? You know, they've already bounced from another site or 3 other sites, where it's like, it's definitely part of the process. There's definitely a value in AI. It definitely speeds things up. It definitely helps to get small sort of snippet content out there quicker. But I think you still need a human element there, right? And you should still be using your data as part of that too, right? Whether that's, you know, that user's on your site. So the more you can tailor it to that user, the more, you know, the more you enrich that, even if it's in metadata and product descriptions and things that can be perceived as being kind of lower kind of requirement for expertise and data and all of that. But I think those are the small margins that make a real difference.
Joe, do you have any thoughts?
No, there's been a lot already being said, just some comments in the chat. One of the discussions that John's seen is that the teams that are writing the content, their discussion is about, should they say that it's chat GPT or AI generated content or not, even if it's just brainstorming. So Lydia just come back in and said, for brainstorming, no need to close that, but ethically, yes, for marketing, you should say that. And John is saying, how about for code sample? Yeah, so there's some good chats in here. So yeah, other people are joking, saying having as much chat GPT content as possible. But no, if you're doing a
If you're my competitor, yes, have as much ChatGPT content as possible. Do not bet it. Like, there's no need. ChatGPT knows everything.
Yeah, I think it's ethically correct to say that some of this content was AI generated when you're doing it for marketing. Okay, back to you. We haven't got many questions. Sorry, we haven't got much time yet. We've got loads of questions. We've got a good Phil SEO office hours today, a very international one as well today.
Lydia, there was a tool that you shared a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, I think. I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was Revive AI, but I've been using it and I really like it. Can you remember the name?
Yeah, Rival Flow AI.
Rival Flow, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's a tool by Spyfoo. I got an email from them like, hey, try my tool. And usually I wouldn't because I'm busy, but that day I wasn't busy. I think it was a bank holiday in the US. And I pulled it up and I was like, okay, wow. Like, there's some members of my team who will absolutely love working with this tool. And they do. It's one of the tools that powers one of our workflows at SurveyMonkey.
Cool. So for those that don't know, it basically, you can put a website as a project on there. I'm just thinking it's sort of semi-related to the question that was just asked around sort of AI and product descriptions. And you basically put your website in and it sort of flags whether somebody, if for an important term, web page has overtaken you, and it might give you some thoughts as to why, in terms of, this competitor seems to be answering this but satisfying this particular intent versus you're not writing about this, and so on. And I just I've been having a play with it and I think it's really cool. Okay, next question. Hi there. If I notice that an industry publication has seen a significant decline in traffic lately, should I skip it when doing my outreach and selling in? I'm not a technical SEO, so I wouldn't know how to figure out why that's the case. Thanks in advance. So I'm guessing this person does either link building or digital PR, and they've obviously seen in one of the tools that one of the publications that they reach out to has seen a drop in organic traffic. Do they just ignore it? Any thoughts, Lee? You're smiling. Any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So I think, first of all, there's lots of reasons why traffic can drop, right? So there might be seasonality, there might be business strategic decisions, there might be all sorts of reasons why a metric's dropped, when you're looking at external tools. So 100% I wouldn't look at any one single metric anyway, but also I wouldn't just look at the metric in isolation. Also, I think when you're looking at backlink profiles, it's about looking at it in a meaningful way. So does the site in question resonate with your audience? Do they have an active audience? Is the content really high quality? Are you expecting to get clicks and engagement and value from that link? There's sort of more focus towards the traffic that comes from links now, as opposed to just the surrounding content and the quality and the spam signals, all those things that kind of matter too, right? So for me, if it's a good website, if your audience are on that website and you're providing some content that's useful to that audience, and it gets your brand sort of exposed in a useful, meaningful way to sort of access wider people, then it kind of makes sense, right? And then does it matter if they've got less traffic at the moment than what they had last month? And also maybe look at more of the longer term trends, right? So traffic can be, hugely changeable for all sorts of reasons. But is that site, a trusted, reputable brand? Have they been around for a long time? Are they kind of in the same sort of space? And by same space, I don't just mean like the topical areas, but the lifestyle choices and all the other things that matter to your audience, right? Because, if really a backlink is you being present somewhere where you feel you're going to add or impart some value to people that are likely to be interested in what you do. So I think it comes back to that rather than as the traffic decline on a website that I might want to backlink from.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if you're building your brand, and doing link building is essentially, doing digital PR is essentially building your brand, you should focus on your audience and not on the website metrics. Is this content relevant for your audience? Is this publication relevant for your audience? Is your audience reading that? Because if they are, like, by all means, go ahead. I think it would be super sus and it would look very much over optimized if a site only got links from like high SDA type of websites. Because the website doesn't work like that. There's going to be a bunch of scrapers that are going to scrape those high DAs and it's going to have like a trash score. So
Yeah, I think we have some very good points here. Sorry, my niece just came into the SEO office hours. I think with regards to this, I mean, there are sites that have been affected by updates incorrectly, and there are other sites that have seen a boost. And actually, Simon made a good point that maybe some have seen a boost because the dev team have fixed some technical errors. So I really need to focus on what you have. Really need to focus on your users. The site's a good site and they've been doing quite well. Okay, this is just a blip. I wouldn't discount it just because of that.
Great. Yeah, I think I sort of agree with everybody, really. There's obviously a reason you were going to outreach or sell into this website in the first place, and it's probably because you know it's a good magazine or a good website, and therefore you want to appear on it. Websites have more than just organic traffic. They also have social media profiles, and they also have email newsletters and so on. So if your audience is there, then I would totally go for it. And I just wouldn't worry too much. If the question here is, is it dangerous for my website to appear on this website? I wouldn't worry about that stuff. I think I would just focus on, if it's a good website, try and get yourself featured on there still. And yeah, but if you felt a bit weird about the website in the first place, hence sort of checking the traffic, maybe don't, maybe don't worry about that too much. But yeah, if it's a great industry publication and it makes sense that you're going to get featured there, then I would continue as normal, not worry about the more technical side. Any questions, Joe, or are we okay to keep going?
No, I think we have a lot of interaction in the chat, which is great. Yeah, I believe you're saying review any recent strategy, what went wrong. I think more like if you have a site that you've wanted to work with and maybe they're continuing to see a downward trend. And, I think that's good. All good. I think we've got a question about local or Google business reviews, actually, or business reviews for Google if you're not a brick and mortar store.
Yes, we've got a couple of Google My Business and local questions. Okay, so this one is, I think this is the one that you're talking about, Joe. How does a company get more Google reviews if they're not a brick and mortar store? We want more reviews.
Yeah, so just for context for this one, they had a Google business profile and it failed the verification because they didn't have a brick and mortar store there, but they thought that they could use it. But obviously they want to get more Google reviews. And so yeah, the question is, how can you do that? Your Google business profile is unverified, which is totally fine. But then how do you get the Google reviews?
An email automation after somebody buys seems like the most obvious solution.
Oh,
No?
yes, no, they would get that, but so they could still have this Google business profile, but then they've turned off the address, but it still says unverified. So does that mean that they can still use the link in the Google business profile to send to customers?
I wouldn't in case it goes away. Like it seems like I'm not an expert in local SEO at all, but if I'm breaking the rules when it comes to Google business profiles, I wouldn't invest on that because I'd be aware that that might go away. And Google's able to gather reviews from across the web. So I'd probably try to work with instead something like a Trustpilot or any type of review website aggregator, G2, depending if you're a SaaS business, and accumulate reviews in there because that's not as likely to go away. Almost all the review sites are pay to play, but I would not continue investing on something that can go away.
I think first we need to kind of understand, if verification is something that can be achieved, right? So if it matters to have Google business profile reviews, which probably for pretty much every business or nearly every business, that can play a really valuable role. So it's kind of understanding, what's causing that lack of verification, whether it can be achieved and whether it can be set up through other things. Like, so if you've got what address is used for company's house to register the business, for example, there's all sorts of ways to kind of have it registered in a legitimate way, that even if you don't have people walking into your office or walking into your store, whatever that might be. And then when it comes to generating reviews, I think there's two really core elements. One is every single frontline staff that interacts with your consumer base should be actively talking about reviews after every positive conversation they have, right? So whether that's Google business profile reviews or just reviews generally, it's like, I hope you had a really great experience today and please leave a positive review. And then the other element to that is, as a business, as part of your culture, you can encourage and champion reviews just generally, right? It's like, how do you evaluate your success of a business outside of revenue and employee satisfaction? The other element is customer satisfaction, right? Without your client base, your business is going to be struggling. So you're going to struggle to achieve your financial goals, your other cultural goals, your staff, and satisfaction, all that kind of stuff, if your customer base aren't happy. So I think the more you facilitate that sort of 360 feedback loop, the better, whether it's Google business reviews or whether it's Google business profile reviews, or whether it's Trustpilot or all the other review sites that can kind of help, right? It's like once you establish that technical verification area, it's then about creating that culture and championing, the culture within your business, right? If somebody naturally generates lots of positive reviews, like champion that person, reward that person, and encourage the same behavior with other people in a normal way. So yeah, I think there's obviously a technical element to it and seeing if it can be verified, because I think it is important and it's useful to have it verified. And then it's a case of how you facilitate it and kind of encourage that kind of behavior. And the frontline staff are obviously key for all of that, whether frontline is someone behind a chatbot or whether frontline is someone on email or on telephone or whatever it might be. If they're dealing with people, there's an opportunity for them to really impact reviews in a positive way.
All right, thank you, Lee and Lydia, for your answer. And Yeah, we'll have a think about that. So, yeah, anyway, Google Business Reviews and these different ones like Trustpilot. I think Trustpilot's great, but yeah, a lot of those ones you do have to pay for and can be quite pricey.
The only thing I would add is obviously you're talking about Google reviews, but I would just Google the brand and reviews and just to see what's actually appearing, because I think sometimes you can focus on something just because we all know what it is, but actually you kind of just need to make sure those reviews are going where customers are. And obviously if they don't have a location, why do they want to rank for those, those kind of local terms? And if that's what they're trying to do, maybe it's just the sort of, I don't know, the actual website itself, whether it has a presence at all in for those kind of local terms.
And even if they don't want to rank for those local terms, there's local intent and other areas like mobile search that have location kind of filters and elements to them, which are broader than just the kind of the city, the country, the region, specific search query. So if I'm driving through an area and I'm using voice search, for example, there's probably a strong local intent on that, even if there isn't a logical one that's specific to your business. If I'm using a mobile phone, there's probably a level of local intent on on some of the areas. So that sometimes there's a bigger picture than just how do I rank for city plus keyword kind of intent when it's location.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, did you want to say something?
No, just thanks for everyone in the chat as well. Everyone's been asking questions. Manura has also been talking about leveraging email marketing. Thank you.
Okay, right. Let's go back to that question around trends for 2024, and we'll kind of incorporate it into our what are we most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment. Joe, did anybody in the chat mention anything to do with trends, SEO trends?
I didn't see anything yet, no. So we've probably thinking so busy answering other questions.
I think Simon added something, but it's so far up, I can't find it.
Okay, well, whilst we look for those, Lee, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
So I might go against the grain a little bit here, but I really love the fact that SEO is kind of a million times more expansive now than just kind of Google and a little bit of Bing. And I know there's been a lot of disruption with how much Reddit appears in the Google search results. But when you look around the intention of that, right, it's like there's an opportunity for organic search to be on pretty much every search and discovery engine. So whether that's Reddit or Quora, all the stuff that's happening on LinkedIn over the last sort of few months, where there's all the contributor pieces, where it becomes more of a platform than just people looking for jobs or people finding people that might be looking for jobs. It's actually creating genuine opportunities for people to impart their experience, their first person perspective, have a credible voice in things, and not just seeing people kind of learn a way to engage with Google. They're doing it more naturally. And you're seeing growth in TikTok and obviously YouTube for a long period of time. And you're seeing particular generational shifts where people just go to TikTok. And also when we talk about AI and all this kind of stuff like AI overviews and Copilot and all these things, like search and discovery engines are very, very different than what they have been for many, many years. And so for me, it's sort of we can have more exciting conversations, right? So when someone talks about SEO, they're not actually just talking about Google and pretending they're talking about SEO. They're talking about where are my audience? How can I engage with them? How can I resonate with them? Where are they located? And also there's a real commercial element to it now, rather than it being almost like, actually, I'm saying SEO, I mean Google. We might do a little bit of Bing, but really it's just Google, and that'll work for Bing too, as long as we've got Bing profiles and Bing analytics in place. And so actually it's more about, okay, let's understand where the audience are. Let's understand all of these other factors, and let's kind of look at where credibly they can be part of more of an aligned strategy. And I think SEO, I'm probably the biggest SEO sad person that there is, that evangelizes about SEO every opportunity, because I just think it's amazing and it should be expansive and not restrictive to one platform or one engine or one brand. And I think we're kind of on the cusp of that at the moment, I feel.
Amazing. Lydia, what are you most excited about at the moment in terms of SEO?
I think I'm very excited about the relationship in between SEO and brand building. I'm really enjoying working for SurveyMonkey. Of course, we got like a lot of people searching for our brand. So understanding exactly what they're searching for, what are they looking for, and interviewing the audience, listening to UX research calls is super interesting. And it's been helping me inform SEO experimentation. Another thing that I'm super, super, super excited about weird. This is nerdy, okay? But like it's more of like loading logic on the server. So when are we going to load what? And how that impacts our carbon footprint, but also how that impacts our page speed. It's just fascinating, and I never really paid attention to it before.
That's awesome. Joe, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm always excited about events. So we have a Search Barcelona dinner, the first one, August 6th. So let us know if you would like to come. I also wanted to say that, yeah, Simon's come back about the question from the beginning. Can we have a segment-based focused on emerging SEO trends and best practices? He's talking about floating with the SEO current. No point in trying to pedal against the flow. But I would also say in terms of SEO, I would actually look into community building. Community building is actually a big one within digital marketing, not specifically SEO. And the HubSpot and Brandwatch Trends report that came out at the end of 2022 was very good. And they have a new one that came out, I believe, at the end of 2023. But I'll need to try and find the link for that one.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much to everybody for joining us today. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to everybody that watched live. Thank you to those who submitted questions. Apologies if we didn't get through your questions. You can still see there's some here. One thing I do is I try and prioritize them based on sort of things that are time bound or things that I think there should be a discussion around. And what I usually do is reach out to the people who ask them where they're kind of quick answers and answer them there. So I'll be in touch if we didn't get to yours. Thank you to everybody watching on YouTube. We'll be back next week. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you
Have a lovely
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for inviting us.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah.